Aloha! Are you ready to learn all about Hawaii landlord-tenant laws? In this video, I will take you through all the details on renting and leasing in the Aloha state. From security deposits to eviction procedures, we'll cover everything you need to know to navigate Hawaii's landlord-tenant laws. Is Hawaii considered a landlord-friendly state? The state of Hawaii is not generally considered a landlord-friendly state since it provides many housing rights to its tenants. Due to the fact that the tenants have slight leverage over their landlords, this can create issues with flexibility on their rental agreement. What should be included in the rental agreement in Hawaii? All of the clauses you're going to see in this video are explained further in the Hawaii Revised Statutes. Feel free to learn more by clicking the link in the description. As of today, written rental agreements are required for leases longer than 1 year. However, it's suggested that you use a written lease regardless of the duration of the lease since it can help to have physical proof of everything that was agreed upon. According to Hawaii law, these are some of the required clauses to include in an agreement for a rental property. Description of the leased premises, name and address of landlord and tenant, duration of the tenancy, rent cost, rent fees and grace periods, security deposit clauses, pet clauses, and person responsible for paying utility bills. What are landlords' rights and responsibilities? The Hawaii landlord-tenant laws state that both parties involved in the lease have a list of rights and responsibilities that they should be aware of at all times. Keep in mind that some of these terms can be adjusted to fit the landlord's needs, as long as they're compliant with Hawaii law rights. Hawaii landlords have the right to collect rent payments in a timely manner, collect security deposits to cover unforeseen expenses and lease violations from the tenant, and pursue a proper eviction process in case the tenant breaches the terms of the lease. Every landlord in Hawaii must make sure that their property fits the required conditions so that it's classified as habitable. In that sense, landlords must provide required repairs by the tenant promptly, usually within 15 days of notice. If the landlord fails to provide these repairs within notice, tenant rights allow them to take alternative action. What are tenants' rights and responsibilities? Tenants have the right to seek a rental unit in the habitable condition. If the property ever needs some repairs, the Hawaii tenant can request repairs from their landlord. If the landlord doesn't respond within the required notice, the tenant may exercise their repair and deduct right. Tenants in Hawaii must comply with the following guidelines if they want to keep a healthy leasing relationship with their landlord. Maintain the unit in a clean condition. Pay rent on time. Make small repairs if necessary. Not disturb other neighbors and tenants, and comply with other additional clauses required by the landlord. Hawaii Landlord-Tenant Law General Clauses. Here's a list of things that every lease agreement in Hawaii must include to be compliant with the state laws. Remember that these laws apply to every tenant and landlord in Hawaii, but they can be adjusted to fit the landlord's needs in some cases. Rent payments. As with other states, rent is payable at the beginning of each month unless the lease states otherwise. In the case that the landlord doesn't specify any amount of payment of rent, the amount is going to be charged at the fair market value of the unit. Every landlord must provide the tenant with a rent payment receipt every month. Currently, Hawaii doesn't apply any rent control policies, meaning that the landlord may charge any amount of rent that they consider appropriate. On the other hand, the landlord may increase the rent as much as they want. However, the landlord must give the tenant at least 45 days notice for monthly leases and 15 days notice for weekly leases. Regarding late fees, landlords may charge them if they want to. Landlords are free to charge any amount that they consider appropriate. However, if the late fees are considered unreasonable, they cannot allow it. As for grace periods for rent, state laws don't say anything about them. This means that the landlord may charge rental fees to the tenant as soon as the tenant goes past its due date. Hawaii tenants may be allowed to withhold rent to cover damages that exceed normal wear and tear, and the landlord refuses to repair them. However, a tenant cannot withhold rent without reason. Security deposit. A security deposit's purpose can go over several things. Overall, security deposits are used to cover damages that exceeded normal wear and tear, unpaid rent, or unpaid utilities. Landlords in Hawaii can collect a security deposit from the tenant if they want, but its value cannot exceed the cost of 1 month's rent. It's important to note that this value of 1 month's rent doesn't include any fees for having an animal in the unit. If this is the case, the value for the security deposit can go higher than 1 month's rent. However, in accordance with Hawaii landlord-tenant laws, if a Hawaii tenant wants to take their service animal with them, landlords must give reasonable accommodation for these animals, and they cannot charge pet deposits. Hawaii landlords must return the security deposit to their tenant within 14 days of the tenant living. If the landlord fails to do this, they may be exposed to legal consequences. Every landlord may choose to withhold a security deposit for any of the following reasons: unpaid rent, excessive damages to the property, cleaning expenses, compensation in case of early termination of the lease, and attorney's fees. In the case that the landlord wants to withhold the deposit, they must make an itemized list of deductions and give it to their tenant. Lease termination and eviction. A tenant may terminate the lease if they wish. In that case, they must provide a particular amount of notice to their landlord, depending on the type of lease. For weekly terms, it's 10-day notice, and for monthly terms, it's 28-day notice. On the other hand, a tenant can request early termination of the lease if they are in a situation such as domestic violence or harassment, active military duty, early termination clause, or the unit doesn't comply with health and safety codes. As for evictions, Hawaii landlords are legally allowed to evict their tenant from the unit if there is breach of lease, 10 days notice to cure or quit, non-payment of rent, 5 days notice to pay or quit, or criminal activity, 5-day notice to quit. At-will tenants with a monthly lease must receive at least 45 days of notice before they get evicted. On the other hand, tenants with a weekly term must receive a 10-day notice. To download your very own lease agreement template or see our full guide on the eviction process and laws for Hawaii, click the links in this description. Housing discrimination. The Hawaii Civil Rights Commission and the Fair Housing Act protects tenants from being discriminated against based on their race, familial status, sex, color, nationality, or disability. Landlord's right to entry in Hawaii. Every landlord must send 2 days notice before they enter the premises. However, the notice required for entry can be adjusted to fit the tenant and landlord's needs. Landlords can enter the property without any notice in emergency cases. This brings us to the end of our exploration into Hawaii's landlord-tenant laws. I hope you found this video informative and that you now have a better understanding of your rights and responsibilities as a landlord or tenant in the Aloha State. From security deposits to eviction procedures, I've covered the essential information you need to know. I hope that this knowledge you've gained will help you navigate Hawaii's landlord-tenant laws with ease. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to check out this video as well. Also, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. Hope you have an amazing day.